The terrifying story I'm about to share tonight is one I really love. This story is both fun and thrilling, keeping you on the edge of your seat the entire time. Most importantly, all the events are about ghosts and spirits that haunt the roadsides. Just listening to it is incredibly exciting. The event I'm about to narrate happened to Sean himself, along with an assistant who accompanied him that day. This incident was so terrifying that it made Sean afraid of driving at night. As for the details of this scary story, let's listen to it together. And of course, before we begin, if you want to enhance the spooky atmosphere, I suggest turning off the lights to create the right ambience. Then close your eyes and imagine the scenes as we go through the story together. Before we dive into our scary story, we would like to ask everyone to like and subscribe to support us in continuing to bring you more terrifying tales in the future. Let's go back to the year 1991, which is about 30 years ago. At that time, Sean worked as a tour bus driver. The routes he drove were always long distance, typically running out of town. For example, he would leave Bangkok in the evening and reach his destination in the morning. I need to explain first that the bus Sean worked on sometimes had full passengers and sometimes not. Most of the time, the bus would be full in the morning, but during the night, the bus would rarely have passengers. If it wasn't during a festival, the bus would almost have no passengers at night. To solve the issue of not having enough passengers, Sean would stop to pick up passengers along the way, as there would be people waiting by the roadside. The night when the incident happened was a night when the bus wasn't fully occupied. It was short by about 4 to 5 seats, meaning that Sean would need to stop to pick up passengers along the way. That night, he was driving as usual. After leaving Bangkok, passing Ayutthaya, and entering Lopburi province, there was a highway police post with a bus stop where passengers often waited for the bus. Now, I should mention that when Sean drove the tour bus, being a large vehicle, he needed an assistant to help serve customers and collect fares. On that night, Sean stopped to pick up 2 passengers at the highway police post, 1 man and 1 woman. After these 2 passengers boarded, the assistant went to collect the fare as usual. After picking up the 2 passengers, Sean continued driving. After a while, there was an old wooden bus stop ahead. As Sean approached, he noticed a woman at the bus stop who looked like she was about to stand up and seemed like she wanted to flag down the bus. Seeing this, Sean slowed down and pulled over to the left, flashing his lights twice as a signal, asking if she wanted to get on. The woman walked out of the bus stop and flagged the bus, indicating she wanted to board. When Sean saw the woman's face for the first time, he noticed her expression looked sad and strange, as if she was burdened with sorrow. She walked with her head down, looking gloomy. Sean could tell just by looking at her that she was unhappy. Another strange thing was that instead of finding an empty seat at the back, she sat in the assistant's seat at the front next to the driver. Sean asked her, "Excuse me, why don't you sit at the back? It should be more comfortable with a backrest." He pointed to the back where there were 3 to 4 empty seats. The woman replied, "Oh, in about 3 to 4 kilometers. I'll ask you to stop and pick up my boyfriend at another bus stop. I'm afraid that if I sit at the back, I won't see the way because it's dark. I'd like to sit here for a moment." Hearing this, Sean said, "Oh, sure, no problem. Please make yourself comfortable." Now, the second strange thing was the tone of the woman's voice. It was cold and chilling in an indescribable way. However, at that moment, Sean didn't think much of it. He wasn't thinking about ghosts or anything like that at all. As he drove closer to the bus stop ahead, about 300 meters away, the woman said, "Please pull over at this bus stop. I need to get off to pick up my boyfriend for a moment. But at that moment, Sean didn't see anyone at the bus stop. He thought perhaps it was too dark to see clearly, so he kept driving. When he stopped at the bus stop, it was as he suspected. The bus stop was empty, completely deserted. It was a dim, gloomy bus stop with just a single yellow light. There was no one there. Sean then asked the woman, "Excuse me, but where's your boyfriend? I don't see anyone." The woman replied, "Just wait for a moment. My boyfriend should be inside." By inside, she meant down the alley, as there was an alley in that area. Sean asked, "Do you have to walk in to get him? Can't he come out himself?" The woman said, "I'll go in to get him." At that point, Sean couldn't refuse and just said, "Oh, okay, but please don't take too long because the other passengers are waiting." The woman then got off the bus and walked into the alley. At that moment, Sean began to feel annoyed, wondering why the man couldn't just wait at the bus stop. Why did the woman have to walk in to get him? Why wasn't he prepared? Was everyone on the bus supposed to wait for just this one person? As the woman walked into the alley, Sean didn't want to just sit there idly by the roadside, as the other passengers might wonder why he wasn't moving. So he pretended that the bus was having a problem. He got off the bus, checked the tires, looked at the back, and walked around the bus to kill time while waiting for the woman to return. However, the woman disappeared into the alley for 10 minutes, which felt like a long time. Sean told his assistant, Tim, go check on that woman for me. Why is she taking so long? Go into the alley and see if she's done. The other passengers are waiting." But Tim said, "Oh man, it's already past midnight. I don't want to go in there alone." I should explain that the alley was a rural road with no streetlights, just a dark countryside road. So you can imagine how it looked. Tim didn't want to go, but Sean used his authority as a senior. He said, "No, you have to go check it out for me. It will only take a moment." Tim reluctantly went into the alley alone. As Tim walked into the alley, he disappeared from view. About 5 minutes later, Sean saw through the side mirror that Tim was running back. When Tim returned, he said, "Hey, that alley is pitch dark. I didn't see any houses or that woman." Sean said, "Really? But we just saw her walk into that alley." Tim replied, "If you don't believe me, you can come with me and see for yourself." Sean said, "I can't leave the bus. I can't leave the passengers alone on the bus. It's too isolated here." Then Tim had an idea. He suggested, "How about this? You back the bus up and turn the headlights into the alley. You don't have to drive into the alley, just shine the headlights to illuminate it. Maybe the woman will see the lights and know we're waiting." Sean thought it was a good idea. He backed the bus up and pointed the headlights into the alley. When they pointed the headlights down the alley, the darkness was immediately dispelled by the bright light. Imagine this. The alley was a dirt road surrounded by dense forest on both sides. There were no houses at all. Seeing this, Sean and Tim started to lose hope and didn't want to wait for the woman anymore because it was taking too long, and there was no sign of her coming back. Tim then said, "See, I told you, there are no houses in there." However, Sean still didn't think the woman was a ghost or anything like that. He suspected she might be trying to trick them into giving her a free ride and then running off without paying the fare. Deciding to give up, Sean decided to reverse the bus and continue the journey because they had already wasted a lot of time. Just as Sean was about to back up, Tim suddenly said, "Hey, look over there. Is that her?" Sean stopped and looked ahead. They saw a figure of a woman walking toward them. However, they couldn't clearly see her face because the bus's low beams were on. If they turned on the high beams, it might blind the woman, so they could only see that it was a woman walking toward them. Sean said, "Yeah, it looks like her. She's walking toward the bus." But she wasn't walking alone. She appeared to be dragging a sack or something with her. At that moment, Sean thought it must be some kind of luggage because she had walked away empty-handed earlier. But what was strange was, where was her boyfriend? Remember, she said she was going to get her boyfriend, but now she was coming back alone with some luggage but no boyfriend. However, Sean decided not to think about it too much and just wanted to get going as soon as possible. Seeing that she was carrying something, Sean told Tim, go help her with her stuff quickly so we can leave soon. Tim then ran down to help her. What I'm about to tell you next is what Tim experienced and later recounted to Sean. As Tim approached the woman to help her carry the stuff onto the bus, he started to smell a foul odor. The closer he got, the stronger the stench became. It was so bad that he almost vomited. At first, he thought it might be the smell of some fermented or pickled items in the bag. But on second thought, the smell of pickled items wasn't usually this nauseating. The closer Tim got to the woman, the stronger the smell became. When he finally stood in front of her, he looked up and saw her face. Her face was very pale, like there was no blood, resembling someone gravely ill. Tim was startled at first but didn't think much of it. The item she was carrying was a fertilizer sack. Tim couldn't see what was inside, but the smell was so overpowering that he asked, "Excuse me, but what's in the sack? I'm afraid if we bring it on the bus, my boss will scold me because it smells really bad." The woman responded, "Oh, it's my boyfriend." Tim was confused, asking, "What do you mean?" The woman then opened the sack to show Tim what was inside. When Tim saw what was in the sack, he was shocked and ran back to the bus as fast as he could. His face was filled with terror, as if he had seen something truly horrifying. Tim ran to Sean and yelled, "Drive! Go now, drive!" At that moment, Sean was confused and asked, "Hey, what's wrong with you?" Finally, Tim got on the bus and whispered softly in Sean's ear, afraid the passengers would hear and panic. He said, "Drive now. There's a dead body in the sack." Upon hearing that, Sean didn't waste any time and started reversing the bus. However, since it was a large tour bus, he couldn't reverse quickly and had to do it slowly because the path was dark and there were ditches on either side. If he reversed too fast, the bus might fall into a ditch. As they were reversing slowly, they saw the woman getting closer and closer until she was almost at the bus. Once they managed to turn the bus around, Sean stepped on the gas immediately. All the passengers were thrown forward because Sean floored the accelerator. As they drove past the alley where the woman had gotten off earlier, Sean saw her standing at the bus stop, holding the sack with one hand and waving with the other. At that moment, he realized she couldn't possibly be human. She had been walking in the alley just moments ago, so how could she now be at the bus stop? Sean tried to stay calm and drove away as fast as he could, focusing only on the road ahead, not daring to look sideways. He planned to stop at a large gas station a few kilometers ahead to gather his thoughts, wash his face, and discuss with Tim what had just happened. When they arrived at the gas station, Sean parked the bus in front of the 7-Eleven, where it was brightest. Both Sean and Tim got off the bus, pretending to stretch their legs. They then talked about what had happened. Tim recounted that as he got closer to the woman, The foul smell became stronger and almost made him vomit. He asked her what was in the sack, worried that if it was something rotten, they couldn't bring it on the bus. When the woman opened the sack, he saw it contained a dismembered male corpse, with the head on top clearly visible. Shocked, he ran back to the bus. Sean was horrified, even though he hadn't seen the body himself. He knew what they had encountered couldn't be anything but a ghost. Before leaving the gas station, they saw a highway patrol car pulling up, and the officers went into the convenience store. Sean decided to wait for them to come out so he could ask if they knew anything about this kind of incident. When the police officers came out, Sean told them what had happened in brief and asked if they knew of any similar incidents in the area. The officers said that about a month ago, a couple had a fight because the woman found out her boyfriend was cheating. In a fit of rage, she stabbed him to death. Afraid of getting caught, she decided to dismember his body and put the pieces in a sack to bury in a deserted alley. However, while she was digging the grave, she panicked, ran into the road, and was hit by a car, killing her as well. The police mentioned that this wasn't the first time someone had encountered her ghost. Many people had seen a woman waving for a ride, and some who picked her up had strange experiences, like seeing her disappear. She always asked to wait for her boyfriend. After hearing this, Sean was too scared to drive that route again. He had never encountered a ghost before, and now he believed in their existence. Shortly after this incident, Sean stopped driving the night shift and switched to day shifts, preferring the daylight and busier roads, even though night driving was more comfortable.